What is home care? Home care is a care option that allows an older adult to live in his or her own home and be cared for by a professional. Home care services can often vary, depending on the older adult's health scenario. They can include things like personal care, bathing assistance, transportation, and specialized Alzheimer's care. Home care is also flexible in scheduling, ranging from a few hours per day to around-the-clock service. Most providers will create a unique care plan tailored to the needs of the individual. Then from there, a schedule is set for a professional caregiver to arrive at the appointed times and provide one-on-one care in the home. The three most common reasons for home care: 1. Life enhancement through social interaction and companionship. This includes such things like cooking meals, playing games, and transportation to appointments. 2. Acute care for chronic conditions such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. 3. Safety of having someone to provide personal care and administer medication, reducing the possibility of pandemic exposure. To find out more about home care, visit homeinstead.com.
Well, good afternoon now. I can't say good morning, but good afternoon now. If you've been with us this whole time, thank you. Awesome. Congratulations. We've had some awesome presenters, and we've got two more that are just awesome. And I'll get to that in just a second. If this is the only one that you picked up, well, what you should know is this is the second annual No Place Like Home conference. And Carmen, it doesn't mean in the house they grew up necessarily. So hang on, don't jump yet. But we do have so many people that want to age in place. They want to age in place, and in their mind that means in the house where they raised, 4 or 5 kids. It's 4,500 square feet, and anyhow, we'll talk about this in just a minute. But we want to thank our sponsors, Home Instead, thank you, and Blue Cross of Idaho, the True Blue Special Needs Plan, thank you, and our host, thank you, Garden Plaza Valley View. They just have been wonderful. They provided this room, which is awesome. It's worked out extremely well. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Our pleasure.
And they bring in food from time to time, and that's just been lovely. Thank you. Well, hang on. I'll get to you in just a second. I'm going to ask you some questions about Garden Plaza Valley View as well. There's a couple other things. Our theme for this whole thing has been kind of the intergenerational approach. We work with a lot of folks that are I say the bologna in the sandwich generation. They're the ones that are in between. I know how that is. Today's kind of how from surviving to thriving. And what we'd like to do in this segment is talk a little bit about preventing the future crisis. And so now let me introduce the awesome people with us. Carmen, Becker, who I've known for probably a decade now.
I've been doing this for 17 years. You're about the same.
Yeah.
We're old.
And she is the Regional Sales and Marketing Director. I was complaining a minute ago that you folks can't come up with shorter names. Like, I'm an attorney, right? I'm the attorney. But Regional Sales and Marketing Director, Garden Plaza at Valley View. You've been in the industry, would you say, 17 years?
17 years.
And you have done a little bit of it all. You've seen the transition from home to independent to assisted living.
Skilled.
And skilled. Oh my goodness.
The full transition.
So you've got a pretty good background to draw from in our discussion today. So thank you. That'll be totally awesome. And what else would you like us? I got this whole card here, but what else would you like us to know about you?
I think just the passion that I have for this industry and for this valley.
You have that. I've seen it many times.
And I'm grateful that you're putting this on so that our families have the resources to access. Aging isn't for the weak of heart.
My mom says not for the wimps.
No,
It is not
definitely.
for the wimps. Yeah. Well, very good. Thank you. And we have Jesse Lukie.
Lukie, yes,
Lukie?
you nailed it.
That's a Spanish name, isn't it?
German, Argentinian, I'm not sure.
Oh my goodness, there you go. Business development representative. Again, there's
Right.
with Dispatch Health, and Dispatch Health is kind of a newer thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been around, the company started in Denver about 6 years ago, but we've only been in the Boise market for about 2 years
2
now.
years, yeah. Okay. So another local kid, BSU.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Right.
And a BA in business administration with a minor in marketing.
Yes.
And 3 years skilled nursing as a marketer admissions coordinator before jumping over to Dispatch Health.
Yes. That 3 years I spent in skilled nursing was an eye-opener. It was my first exposure to healthcare, and just to see so many unnecessary trips to the ER that just ended up, down the wrong path, and that could have been prevented, and so I'm happy to be part of this new company.
I was going to ask that question, and then I hesitated a little bit, but let me see if I can ask it right. Everybody, perhaps at least at a certain age, should spend 3 years working with folks in skilled. It would change their mindset and perhaps some behaviors.
I 100% agree with that, yes.
Okay, very good. Very good. So, yeah, you've been here since you were 4. I want to ask how long that was. Where were you before that?
I'm a youngin'. I grew up, or actually was born in Los Angeles County.
Oh. Well.
But before I started elementary school, my parents said, we're gonna get him out of here. So.
They weren't the only ones.
Right, yeah.
And 3 dogs.
Yes, my children.
I need to introduce you to my kids because dogs and board games, and I'm not necessarily thrilled with either one, but they do, and they love it. So
I love that you have all that on there.
Yeah. That's so important. So, first of all, our garden plaza at Valley View. Mm-hmm. Again, thank you. I've told the story to a couple of people that I've gotten chewed out here before because the old man band was too loud. You've seen the crews playing cards down there, right?
Yeah.
And you avoid them.
Oh, bridge. We don't mess around with
You
bridge.
kind of just walk around them.
We tiptoe. There's bridge you just don't mess with.
Well, somebody
Happy hour and bridge. Those are 2 staples that we just never, ever schedule around.
Somebody scheduled us to come, so we're playing, and oh my goodness, I'm like, all right. We've covered kind of the gamut over the last 3 days, and so today we're kind of pulling that together. And I want to talk about transitioning, being safe, which as the child of someone who was at home when the rest of us kids thought we needed some help. After the 3rd fall, and then she moved to a place that had concrete steps. That's a concern. I think that's a huge concern to people. So let's start with safety. Talk to us about safety. What can we keep our eyes on, and then what can we do about it?
You want to go?
Sure, absolutely. So coming from my standpoint, from with Dispatch Health, when we're able to come into the home and visit these patients, we have this unique ability, aside from other healthcare providers, to actually look at the home and see the risks that are in that home. So it's looking for, those fall risks, those loose rugs on the ground that can slide, the cords that are sticking out, the things hanging on the wall that you're going to bump your head into, things that you never thought much about when you were younger. But as you get older, they can be pretty nasty. So it's keeping an eye out for that kind of stuff, and trying to negate as much of a possibility as running into that.
So I need to back up just a little bit. We didn't do dispatch, the best introduction. Why don't you take a minute and then explain what dispatch does and why you're talking about going into the home?
Oh, sure. So in a nutshell, Dispatch Health is a same-day urgent care, mobile urgent care system. So how it works is if you have some issues that you think driving down to the urgent care would be something beneficial for you, you can give us a call instead. We will triage you over the phone. We'll figure out what's going on. We'll send a crew out of a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant out to your home, along with an EMT trained technician. They'll treat you in your home. They can give you first dose antibiotics, or steroids, Lasix. We can do EKGs, IVs, catheters, all kinds of stuff. We then call in prescriptions for you to your pharmacy. We send all your notes over to your primary care provider or your home health agency, your hospice provider. And then we follow up in 3 days to see how you're doing, and we then follow up with your primary care provider as well to ensure that you're still getting that care. And this is especially useful for people who just can't get out of the home. Granted, there are still a need for ER services, but...
But one of the things that the advantage that you were mentioning was once you get into the home, then you can see environmental factors that are going on, and you can bring that to play on what it is that you do or diagnose or what you prescribe.
Exactly. Not an advantage that most, PCPs have, or, doctors in the hospital. They aren't able to get into the home and see what it's like there. So we can make those changes.
And I'll add that this is one of those services that we utilize a lot in our community in independent living, because a UTI gone septic, we have President Clinton now, or former President Clinton, in the hospital because of sepsis. And when you have an elderly person that has limited mobility or the ability to travel to urgent care, calling in the dispatch to have mobile labs done and be preventative is long-term beneficial. Right now, we don't have a hospitalization. Right now, with COVID, the primary care physicians and internal medicine docs have been reallocated to the hospital. Yeah. So their practice hours are cut short. So this is an excellent way for families to avoid unnecessary hospitalization and cut those urinary tract infections in half before it does get septic.
And I would I haven't seen as much of that with in my situation, but I would guess that a big reason that people don't get the medical care that they maybe should be getting is access.
Yeah.
Being able to just go.
Absolutely.
And this is, and okay, so I can call my son and he can come get me, but then I have to get up, I have to get dressed, and I don't feel like it, and things are going on, and da-da-da-da-da. And this is a way for them to receive it without leaving the house.
Exactly. And, still people are still resistant to trying it, but I promise, you try it once, you get over that first hump, and you'll love it. And it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, so let's jump back for just a second. We talked a little bit in the last session about independent living. I'm going to try to connect the two in just a minute. And I've been pretty good so far. I'm just saying. But independent living is can just be an awesome in-between step between being at home and being in, say, assisted living. I think that's underutilized quite a bit.
I think there's two things. We have never in humanity dealt with the chronic comorbidities, the diagnoses that we're dealing with today.
Well, add to that fact that we are living longer.
We're living
yes,
longer.
We've done that.
Yep.
But, like you said,
we're dealing with heart failure, dementia, all of these combined.
well, we used to just die.
Exactly, right?
that
It
was
was easy.
Way to put it lightly. I love it.
And so when we think about our parents living at home, what the beautiful thing that COVID has brought to fore, right, is now we have quantifiable evidence of what happens when we isolate and when we're confined,
Yep.
right? And so when we are isolated in our home with these comorbidities, 50% stroke increase, dementia, 42% increase. We now have the physical and the statistical data of what being homebound, being without a community, being, confined, how those exacerbate those comorbidities. And I think that's the beautiful thing about a communal living, whether that's assisted or independent or in a small certified group home. That communal living, we are social creatures by habit, by nature, and we need that support of each other when we don't have that, whatever that may look like. So independent living is that bridge where mom and dad may not be safe enough or that the household chores become too much. Mowing the lawn, fixing the drain, the tasks of just being is already consuming. So let's just take the maintenance away and provide some activities and meals and let them enjoy it.
Well, that was one of the things that kind of pushed mom to make the decision to move into an independent assisted living community was the meals, the food. Going down and buying the groceries, parking the car, going in, buying the groceries.
It's hard to cook for one.
And you know what? She couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
After a while. She just was not. In fact, here's the story. We were looking at a couple of places, and there was one that wasn't on our schedule, but we'd seen it as we drove by. She said, well, I'd like to go look at that. And as we were pulling out of that, there's a nice little over 55 community, and she was a bit over 55. And we're driving through. I said, Mom, this looks good. And I knew she wasn't going to like it, but I took her in there, and she goes, will they cook for me? And I said, no, they won't cook. They won't buy your groceries. They won't put them away. She goes, well, I don't want anything to do with this. Well, and so that was the thing that kind of put her over the top was, hey, I don't have to fix a meal for myself and then deal with the leftovers and, all of that. And so that really helped her make that decision to make that move. So I love that. So somebody could move into Garden Plaza or independent living to begin with. I like the over 55, the little patio communities and that, but it's nice that they've got somebody making sure they're getting their nutrition.
Yeah, and a lot of, I'll speak for our community. We do security checks, and you have oversight of what's going on in your community. So that way, if you know that Margaret hasn't been down for dinner, you're going to Margaret to see what's going on in her world. So it's just that added reassurance for families. Or conversely, if we start seeing that Margaret is a little wonkier than normal, call in dispatch health. Hey,
What's going on? Family,
this is what we're noticing. Can we go ahead and get some mobile labs going on? Just to make sure that she is medically sound. It truly takes a village these days to care for our aging parents, and having a team of professionals that have your back and understand the family's needs and dynamics to guide us through this process is critical, more than ever before.
Well, again, especially if we're going to live longer, but we're going to deal with those comorbidities, we need a situation where we're safe. and protected. I go visit mom, and we go to breakfast, and there's always the talk, well, yeah, Margaret didn't come down this morning, so what's going on? Did you check on Margaret? How's she doing? And here's an understated one. They have to brag about their kids and grandkids. And they can't do it if they're home alone. I'm throwing that out there that, they get to the table and, oh my gosh, it's so funny listening to them because, they're out trying to outdo the other one. So hopefully mom's not listening to this. It's hysterical. But I love the fact that it is a very social situation and they keep an eye on each other.
They truly do.
Well, and then they have somebody to come down to lunch too. Now, I think what I love about the dispatch health model is the fact that we would only go to skilled because we finally got there.
Yes.
And maybe not sooner than we needed to.
Right. It precisely. In my mind, there's a lot of good we can do, because we can treat from 3 months of age through the entire lifespan. But our hugest demographic is between 70 and 79 years of age. That's just where the need is. And a lot of our stuff comes from independent living, from assisted living. And I see it, I want to keep them there as long as we can. When I worked in skilled nursing, I saw typically it was a UTI that developed. If this person already had dementia or Alzheimer's setting in, it just exacerbated it so much worse. And next thing you know, the stressful transition to the hospital, the unfamiliar environment, they're agitated, they're combative maybe. Next thing you know, they're in the hospital for 2-3 weeks. And if they're lucky enough, we can find a skilled nursing facility for them to go for a few days, a few weeks. And with any luck, make it back to where they were at the beginning. Yeah. But now they're thousands of dollars in debt, a whole cabinet full of extra medications. We don't want to see that. We want to keep people comfortable where their family is and where they want to be as long as we possibly can. So we're throwing out 2 options to families. And we're going to talk in a minute. We've talked a few times about often it's the family that has to make the plan, has to do the planning. So what we're suggesting are 2 options that can keep mom and or dad in a situation that of their choosing, and we can do it for a longer period of time. And so when we said, when the name of our conference is No Place Like Home, I have in my brain over the last few years kind of set assisted living and or independent living as the standard, meaning for safety, for activity, socialization. And if you are going to stay at home and age in place, it seems to me that you need to be looking at, well, how do I match that standard? And it's not necessarily an easy one to match at home. But Dispatch Health is a way to kind of match that standard. We want to be safe at home. And being able to get in and get eyes on helps immensely. And it seems to me that we can also work on our concept of home. What's home?
Yeah, so home is where your heart is, really, right? And what I tell families is, because oftentimes I promised mom I'd keep her in her home her whole life.
Oh, I know.
That is an amazing feat considering your mom.
I don't think we've only said that a dozen times.
Yeah, right. And that's okay. You know what? If you want to exhaust every opportunity to keep your word as you saw it then let's go ahead and contact your doctor. Let's see if we can get some home health to see if they can have occupational therapy to come and look at the house and see if it's safe, physical therapy to get you strong, mobile, maybe some speech therapy for cognition. But if at any one of those times, any one of those professionals, PhDs, say, hey, this may not be the ideal place for mom, that we have to have an open mind and heart to say, Mom, we tried everything we could to keep you in your home, but we want to spend more time with you, and we want to have more memories with you, and in order to do so, we need to get you in a safer environment. Home is wherever family is, and it can be in your home. Conversely, it can be in independent living, it can be in assisted living, or in memory care, right? Home is family, and that's when family comes together.
Yeah, I think it was Kathy Lucina said that, you know what, your house is a box and it's got stuff. That's not home. You know, home is a different concept. And so I think that's, so let's back up. Please don't tell your mom. Do not, raise your right hand, put your left hand on the Bible. I swear, don't do that. Because I think what you really mean when you say, Mom, I won't let you go in there, what you're saying is, Mom, I want to take care of you. I want you to have a high quality of life. I think that's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
So don't say it that way. Say, Mom, I want you to have the best life possible. And that isn't always in a box. Well, and we've had that conversation with clients where we've had the mom who had a 4,500 square foot home up on the bench of all places, or in the foothills, sorry. And she's driving up and down. Oh my gosh! And the yard was huge. And her comment to me was, "Well, I'm hanging on to the house for the kids, right? This is where they grew up. I'm hanging on to the house." I said, "Well, fine. Let's call them." It was horrible. That was the worst thing I ever did. And said, so Mom is hanging on to the house for you. And why is she doing that? I don't want the house. The other child, I live in Chicago. I'm never going to need the house. Well, that was the first time that she had really considered the possibility that, that's not, I'm hanging on to it for a different reason, which was horrible to do to her, because now she had to think about, well, why am I hanging on to it? Should I be here? And 4,500 square feet, anything over about 750 feet for Mom?
Yeah.
It's a lot of dang work, and we got to take care of that. So, give me some ideas then, or some concepts about moving from the box that's our home. And I say it lightly, but I get that there's a lot of memories in that are tied up in that. Dee Childers talks about doing the planning based around, different values or principles. And what's your value? So how do we figure that out? How do we help them to make decisions to either bring in help at home or to take the intermediate step to, independent living? How do we do that?
I always tell families that we have to honor and recognize that this is a mourning process, right? Mm. They are going to have those same emotions as mourning the loss of a loved one, because that house to them represents so much. Yeah. And if we honor those feelings and understand that they're going to have resistance and anger and outbursts of crying, before there's that acceptance, our job is to honor that and guide them through those processes so that we can help educate them and get them to that safe place. Sometimes you have those family dynamics where one sees Mom as she is and one sees Mom as they want her to be. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And if we can
No. None of the kids see her as she is. They see her as she was, and or how they would like her to be, but boy, it's hard for them to see her as she is.
Because that's the passing of the torch.
I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah, it's tough.
It's hard. It's hard seeing your matriarch or your patriarch no longer that, and that passing of the torch. Now you are your mom and dad. And that's a hard thing, even as an adult child, as I'm getting all emotional, to face. And so if we say, let's just all pretend that this is really where mom is, whether we believe it or not, if this is where mom truly is, then what would she need? Take the objectivity, and if this wasn't mom, and this is what we were facing, what would we do if it wasn't mom? And planned around that, right? It takes that emotion out of it, and it lets us think outside of that emotion.
Which is really hard to do.
When you're faced with it, yeah, it's awful.
Oh, I can speak to that. So no, we won't go there. 'Cause I don't like to cry on camera. I don't like to cry anywhere. So, Jesse, are there some health issues that maybe we should make sure we're a little bit secure in before we have this conversation with mom? Are there some things that maybe we're missing, and don't we want her in the conversation?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's his decision. And I know both of you understand how difficult of a decision that is. I've seen so many people come to, skilled nursing, which is, that one step away from the hospital, which there's a need for it, but I hate to see people end up there right away. So yeah, the whole family needs to be in on this conversation, and it's a matter of making them realize that if you don't take the small steps now, you're going to take a really big leap 10 years down the road, and it's going to be even scarier. And it's who knows what kind of life you're going to have after that. So if you're able to come into an independent living or assisted living first, you get accustomed to it, you learn the people, and it's going to keep you in that healthier state for a much longer time, rather than going straight into that hospital bed. I certainly had compassion fatigue working at the skilled nursing facility I was at, and so many times it was the family was heartbroken, the patient was heartbroken that this is where they had to be.
And it was so unexpected.
It was always unexpected, But that's why we're doing this right now, right? I mean, it's to make people aware, start having these conversations now, Don't wait till the last minute. It's awful. And if you've seen what I'm sure all of us have seen, we would do anything to convince you to take action now. I mean.
Yeah. So if we're, let's say that we're able to get the family on board, the siblings, which
that's a feat.
Kind of like watching The View, right?
I'm a Hispanic family, so it's a little different.
No, you just talk faster. That's all. So if we kind of can get the family together, Jesse, how do we make sure that mom's able to interact with us? Is there, should we make sure that health-wise that she's with us and able to handle this?
Right.
Should we send you guys out and have her talk to her?
Well, unfortunately, we have been so busy, and I think it's just a testament to how this model of healthcare has been. We've been needing this for so long, But I wish we could just go out and talk and help with those conversations. Unfortunately, we only can go out when there's an acute need. But that typically is where that ball starts to roll downhill, right? Yeah. So I'm hoping, my hope would be it's something smaller, okay? Maybe had some vertigo and she fell, right? Yeah. And got a little cut on her arm. A little shooken up, but no worse for the wear.
Got it.
Give us a call. We'll come and we'll sew it up. We'll make sure everything's good, and then we can have that conversation with you and the family if you would like them there.
Well, we don't necessarily need you there, I think, in the conversation, but boy, it'd be nice to know that mom can follow, she can track, that she's at her best self.
Absolutely. And I was gonna say though is one great thing about our concept as well is on average our providers are out there for 50 minutes with each patient, and you don't get that at in your primary care provider or anything. So to have that time to ask those difficult questions, and then we follow up with you 3 days later. So if you have more questions about this whole thing, it's a toolbox for you, for them and for the family. To ask us. Like, we have a lot of knowledge. Our teams have a lot of knowledge in healthcare, and they can certainly help you find resources for home health, for assisted living, independent living that would be appropriate for you. Like, we're happy to help in every single aspect of healthcare.
I think sometimes what happens is we make a quick decision when mom's in crisis, right?
Oh.
She accidentally took too much of her nighttime medication. Or conversely, mom now has a UTI and we see that she's struggling, right? And we want to make a decision and have her involved in that decision-making process. But physically and emotionally, mentally, she's in no place to make that decision. So if we are going to have these conversations, you can't do it in a crisis moment. You have emotions, you have medical needs that need to be taken care of, and that's where having this conversation prior to and continually having this conversation until you're all on board. I always tell families, you'll make a plan. One way or another. Either you decide, or someone decides for you.
Yeah, making plans is a dangerous thing. Yeah.
And if we can be proactive in that, it negates a lot of trauma.
Well, it seems to me that I call it planning by design and planning by default. And nobody really likes the default plan, which is what most people have. From the estate planning, we figure somewhere between 55 and 85% of the people have no written plan for their estate planning. So they get the default plan, which most of them recoil when I tell them that's what it is. And you both could talk to them about the default plan, and they would recoil even faster. So getting that conversation started sooner rather than later, and I want to say intervention, but it probably is, started sooner rather than later, then we get to perhaps avoid a crisis. Maybe they just get to pass, with the nice, what used to be how we passed. Right. So we had all these other things that we get to deal with. Or we push down the road even further the need for skilled nursing. Right. And it would be great if they could push down the road a little bit the assisted living or the memory care, which means we got to get going, which I think that the age is 64 when you need to start. Because I'm 63. So
like 55.
Then next year it'll be 65. Yeah.
So you got to get going on that conversation sooner rather than later. I want to talk maybe just a minute about independent living as a way maybe to get part of the conversation started. Because I know how difficult it is to leave home. With my mom, fortunately, they'd lived in a number of different places, and so there was not that much attachment to a particular place. Grandma was different.
Yeah, I'm sure Grandma was.
50-something years in, and oh my goodness, there's long stories about that one. But they can come here and visit. Mm-hmm. We cheated. I bought Mom a week at this little place that she liked because we were going to be in town. It's down in Logan, Utah. So we went down. We were visiting. We got girls down that way, so we went down to visit. And I said, Mom, we're going to be there. And she goes, okay. And man, it made a big difference because I don't think she understood. And the socialization, people that she met that week, she still knows. And so, that was just amazing. Talk to us a little bit about how to get started. What can we do?
Yeah, so those are called staycations. We have,
very good.
yeah, staycations or respites.
Can I get a staycation?
I would love a
Just come
staycation.
down?
I tell my kids that. You better listen to me because at work they feed me and they do all the chores.
I want to move in here too.
Yeah.
But that's a great introduction into independent living for families because it allows them to experience the community.
Right.
In our community, we have welcoming committee.
Oh, very good. I like that.
It's really nice. You learn a lot. Some things you just don't want to know. You're like, la, 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 la. But
But you got to live with that. And let me say why you got to live with that. Because so many people that go do these visits and they're staged. Right? They know you're coming for a visit.
Yeah,
so
for a
now
tour,
it looks
yeah.
a little bit better. And we had a special meal today for lunch and that. So having the welcoming committee, yes.
the residents can tell them the good, bad, and ugly.
Oh, yeah.
But they also empathize, right? Because they themselves have experienced the same thing that mom and dad are going through. And I can sit there and tell mom and dad, but it's different when it's coming from the residents who have been there, done that, and lived it. And it's more meaningful. So we have our resident ambassadors greet our residents, new ones, and those staying for respite, just to help guide them the ins and outs of communal living, which, activity is the best, and bridge, and who plays and who cheats, and, gives them the ins and outs. It's beautiful. It's an awesome...
And who yells at us when we're just trying to do the thing that we were trying to do? Oh, my goodness.
But so the respite idea is a great transition. Most communities have that anymore, just because it is a nice transition from home to here.
And it's a gift to the kids, right? They don't quite get that.
Yeah, I always tell our families, because we are dealing with so many chronic conditions, you have a choice. Do you want to be son or do you want to be caregiver?
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't be both. Not in today's world. We are so sick.
We don't get that. We think, oh yeah, well I can still be the son. I watched grandma with great grandma.
Yeah.
And it was cat and dog all the time.
Yeah.
They fought, and I'm like, oh my God. We were always uncomfortable, right? Because we loved them both, and we're just like, Mom. She goes, I know. Right?
It's exhausting.
Oh, goodness gracious. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's not about how much time, it's about the time we spend. And so the time that we have left here, how do you want to spend it? Exhausted? Or do you want to create memories and create stories and further that legacy of whatever grandma, mom, sister, brother is? Right? Mm-hmm. So choose. Caregiver or family.
Yeah.
We get a choice. And it doesn't have to be hard.
Well, it's hard.
It is. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be that hard. And we're really good at making it that hard.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
Because we're Wonder Woman. You're Superman. Right?
Grief. I'm glad somebody finally noticed. Well, and the dynamics are never fair in a family. No. It's just never fair. And we've talked about this in a number of sessions, that it's the daughter-in-law, often before a son. I don't mean to pick on the men, but boy, that's just so often the case. And then you have the child that lives here in Boise or in the valley, and then the other ones that don't see mom and dad, and especially during the COVID thing. Oh. Mm-hmm. And then they fly into town. Who was it that called it the seagull? Somebody called it the seagull. The family that flies in and craps on everything and then flies out.
Yeah.
You know? They're sitting there going, to their sister, "You're not doing a very good job. You're just not doing a good job. Look at mom. She's just, she's not well kept and da 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 da." And the poor child here is exhausted and overwhelmed, and that's what she gets from her family.
Yeah.
Is that you're doing a horrible job. So that is so difficult. And then she's like, "Yeah, it might be time." And the kids out of town are going, "Are you kidding?
Mom's great.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?"
No, for a minute ago, she wasn't great.
Yeah.
But now she's great because we talked about, well, maybe, assisted living or maybe independent living would be a good fit for her. So I don't, of course, that's what I told the kids growing up. Who told you that life was fair? It's not fair, and there's just so very little that we can do about it. So what else would you tell us about, say, the independent living? We talked just briefly that, we can bring in some extra care. Mm-hmm. We can bring in home health if we needed to. We can certainly bring in a
dispatch,
a doctor's crew. Mm-hmm. And so we can make this, we can push this out for a long time with the quality that we want. What else should we know about independent living? What should they be thinking?
It is activity and community driven. The more active we are physically and cognitively, then the longer our lifespan typically is, right? I think Japanese have like 100-year average, 96 or some craziness like this, without medications.
Sushi.
No, it's their active lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Really that is the beautiful thing about independent living. It's about living our best life possible, engaging again with others, and it truly is keeping your independence. We have a lot of people living at home who are just sitting in a chair, right? They get up, go to the bathroom, sit down, watch their TV. That's it.
The story, I have a story to that. Lady at church, she wanted my son to come over and mow the lawn. Mm-hmm. And it was a small little lot. We said, fine. So we go over to the house. The door is, of course, unlocked. Mm-hmm. So you knock on the door, "Come in!" And we came in, we went into her little sitting room, and it was a 65-inch color TV. And she had her little recliner about 5 feet from it with an Afghan that she had over her legs. And she fought her kids tooth and nail against going into, say, finding a nice independent living. She was going to live at her house.
Yeah.
And that was both her socialization and her activities. And man, that had an impact on me. It had an impact on my poor son too. He's like,
yeah.
"Dad," I go, no, it's okay. So yes.
Yeah, getting them in, and I think sooner is always better, because there are points, right? If you're so deconditioned that you need someone to help you get out of your chair, you're looking at assisted living.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I'm a big advocate of home health, of physical therapy. Let's get them strong. Let's see how strong they really are, because they're so deconditioned at home. Can they thrive in an independent living, or did we wait too long and now it's assisted? Or did we wait even longer and now it's memory care? Right?
Well, and there's a second part to that. I think Eric Collette's the one that introduced me to this concept, and he calls it the window.
Yep.
And if we got the window open, there's a good time to make the move where you're still capable and very independent, and you're able to visit with people and get to know them. Or there's the just before the window's closed and we're not doing as well, cognitively as well as physically. So yes, I agree with you 100% on that. So My wife and I will be moving in next week, so that'll be great.
We'll take your wife.
I'll sleep in the car. Especially if that peach pie is available. I'll sleep in the car. So, Jesse, what else should we know that maybe we haven't covered yet about this concept? One, the concept of dispatch health, and then dispatch health itself. What should we know?
Honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, and I know I'm kind of biased because I work for the company, but in the short time that I've been with them, I have been proven time and time again from everybody here all the way up to the CEO of the company, Mark Prather, they're truly in it for the patient. He was an ER doctor for 20 years in Denver and saw that 60% of the people going to the ER didn't need to be there. 25% of the people using ambulances didn't need to use those ambulances. That's thousands and thousands of dollars.
They needed it at that moment because
they didn't have another option.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he started this company, and like I said earlier, there's no registration fees, there's no membership fees. We charge your insurance just the way urgent care would. So if you have Medicare and no other insurance, it's about $27 on average for us to come out and see you. Right, I know. Yeah. And it's just taking that first leap. But getting somebody in there to take a look at what's going on. I mean, we can do, rapid flu, mono, strep, COVID-19 tests. We can do IVs. We can do catheters. We can do EKG machines, nebulizers.
Oh, my goodness.
About 70% of what the ER can do. And then if we need imaging for x-rays or CTs, we can schedule those. And usually we can have them that day or the next day. And it's so easy. And people are always asking, what's the catch? What's the catch? There really isn't. So all I'm saying is, give it a shot. And when we get in there, now we can take a look at what's really going on in the home, in your personal life, and you. And then we can help make suggestions. We can help get that conversation going into home health. Because having that conversation with a mother and her children, she's the boss in that thing. There's tension there. But you bring in some health providers, an outside source, an expert they can help kind of lower that wall a little bit and maybe get that conversation headed in the right direction. And I would truly hope that that's something we could accomplish or help accomplish at least.
Very good. Very good.
And I think with time, they're so quick and efficient at getting there.
Yeah.
And at this age, time matters.
Oh, first of all, you got to get up, you got to get dressed, you got to go get the car out of the garage, and then you got to drive there, and then you got to sit and wait.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on average about 3 hours. We can be after care is requested from us. And if you think about it, getting in the car, driving there, waiting, seeing the doctor, coming back, that's about 3 hours right there. And you get that 50 minutes with that provider.
I love it. Well, thank you both. Appreciate your time. Thank you. We appreciate our space and the peach pie, and I think we
cherry
had
crisp today.
Something about cod.
Oh, is it cherry crisp today?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Good to know that. Thank you all for joining us. And again, quickly, how do we get hold of Dispatch Health? How do we get hold of you?
You can call us, 208-268-8024, or you can go on to dispatchhealth.com, or you can use the app for the iOS or Android.
Oh, my goodness, very good. And
we don't have an iOS.
You don't?
You can just give us a call, 208-322-0311, or visit our website, www.valleyviewret.com.
Very good. Thank you. Have an enjoyable day, and please take care of yourselves.